Family, can I be real with you today? Sometimes we don't even realize that the reason we feel drained, overlooked, or unvalued isn't because people are blind to who we are. It's because we've been giving out our presence, our time, our energy like it's on clearance. And when you make yourself too available, when you let everybody pull on you without boundaries, you start to train people not to honor you, but to use you. The truth is, people don't respect what's too easy to reach, and God never designed you to be a doormat for their convenience. He designed you to be a daughter of worth, a vessel of power, someone who knows how to protect her spirit. Today we're going to talk about why it's time to stop being too friendly and start walking in the dignity of your divine value. Stop mistaking kindness for overexposure. Your light doesn't belong everywhere. We live in a world that has confused friendliness with availability. Somewhere along the way, we started believing that in order to be Christ-like, in order to be good people, in order to be loved, we had to be overly accessible. We told ourselves, if I don't say yes, they won't think I care. If I don't show up, they'll think I'm selfish. If I don't let them close, maybe they'll believe I'm cold. But what if I told you that being too friendly can actually be a weakness in disguise? What if I told you that constantly making yourself available for people who don't value you is not humility, it's self-neglect? Kindness is powerful. It's one of the fruits of the Spirit, but kindness was never meant to strip you of discernment. When you walk into every room shining your light without boundaries, you invite people who were never meant to handle your glow to treat it like a cheap flashlight instead of the divine spark of God that it is. Overexposure doesn't bring appreciation, it brings familiarity, and familiarity often breeds disrespect. Think about it. Diamonds are valuable not just because they're beautiful, but because they're rare, because you can't just stumble on them on the side of the road. They are protected, preserved, and polished. But some of us keep tossing our pearls into places that can't handle them. You keep showing up for people who never show up for you. You keep giving your time to those who don't even notice the cost of your sacrifice. And the more available you are, the less they value what you carry. This is not about arrogance. This is about stewardship. God gave you a light, but He also gave you wisdom to know where that light is supposed to shine. Even Jesus, the most compassionate man who ever walked this earth, didn't make Himself available to everyone. There were crowds He healed and multitudes He taught, but there was also an inner circle, Peter, James, and John, who had access to His most vulnerable moments. If Jesus set boundaries around His humanity, what makes us think we can survive without them? The enemy wants you to believe that boundaries make you selfish, but really, boundaries are what protect your purpose. When you give yourself away too freely, you run the risk of pouring into people who only take but never give, who only drain but never refill, who only applaud when you're useful but disappear when you're empty. That cycle leaves you weary, questioning your worth, wondering why no one respects you. But maybe it's not that they don't see your value. Maybe it's that you've trained them to believe your value is always on sale. You've got to stop equating your kindness with access. You can love people without letting them consume you. You can serve without being exploited. You can be generous without being emptied. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is step back and say, no, not here, not now, not like this, because your light was never meant to shine in every space. It was meant to shine in the spaces God ordained, where it can actually bring transformation, not just entertainment. And here's the hard truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone can handle your heart. Not everyone is meant to walk that closely with you. When you stop mistaking kindness for overexposure, you'll start to see that preserving your light is not selfishness, it's strategy. It's you honoring the God who put that light in you in the first place. People value what requires effort to access. We all know this in the natural. If someone hands you something for free, you might smile, you might even say thank you. But the way you treat it is not the same as something you had to save up for, sacrifice for, or fight for. That's not because you're ungrateful. It's because human nature automatically assigns value to things that cost us something. When something is rare, when something is difficult to reach, when something isn't just placed at your feet, you treat it differently. And this principle is not just about money or material things. It applies to you, to your time, to your energy, to your presence. The reason some people in your life treat you like an option is because you have allowed yourself to be too accessible. You've been giving them the best parts of you at a discount, and they've been responding like customers who don't care if the store closes because they know it will always open back up again tomorrow. But when you start requiring effort, when you stop letting people access you without investment, their posture towards you changes. Suddenly they pay attention. Suddenly they listen. Suddenly they recognize that you are not just another person in the room, you are someone with weight, someone with substance, someone who requires honor. Think about relationships. When someone pursues you, when they call, when they show up, when they sacrifice their time and energy just to be close to you, that pursuit reveals their value for you. Now compare that to someone who only texts when it's convenient, who only calls when they're bored, who only shows up when they need something from you. The difference isn't just in what they say, it's in the effort they put in. And effort is a form of currency. It's proof of investment. God wired it this way on purpose. Look at how the kingdom works. Salvation is free, but walking in God's purpose costs something. The anointing requires consecration. Favor requires obedience. Intimacy with God requires time and prayer, sacrifice, shutting out distractions. He set the system up so that what is most valuable is never cheaply accessed, because he understands that our hearts only respect what requires pursuit. If God set it up that way, why would you not operate the same way in your own life? When you stop making yourself so easy to access, you're not being mean. You're raising the standard. You are declaring with your actions that if someone wants to experience the depth of who you are, they will have to meet you with effort. That effort is not about making them jump through hoops. It's about protecting your soul from those who only want what you can give, but don't want to invest in who you are. It's about making sure that the people around you are not just consumers of your light, but contributors to your growth. Some of you have been crying out to God, asking why people don't take you seriously, why your voice doesn't carry weight, why your presence feels overlooked. But the truth is, people have been responding to how you've presented yourself. If you give without discernment, if you say yes without hesitation, if you allow access without investment, you teach people to see you as common. But when you require effort, when you show them that you are not available for every call, not accessible for every whim, not present for every convenience, you teach them that you are valuable. This is not about manipulation, it's about stewardship. Diamonds are not kept in drawers, they are locked in vaults, because their value requires protection. You've got to start protecting yourself in the same way, because when people have to reach for you, they will respect you more deeply. When they have to invest in you, they will honor you more fully. And when they have to put in effort, they will finally realize that what they are reaching for is worth it. Boundaries are not rejection, they are protection. Somewhere along the line, many of us were conditioned to believe that drawing a line in the sand means you don't love people, or that saying no means you're selfish, or that stepping back means you're bitter. But boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are gates that allow the right people in and keep the wrong ones from taking what they cannot handle. Boundaries are an expression of wisdom. They are the voice inside of you that says, I am not built to carry everything. I am not created to fix everyone, and I am not obligated to allow constant access to my spirit. We have to change the way we see boundaries. When you put a fence around your yard, you're not rejecting the neighborhood, you're protecting what's inside. You're making sure that what belongs to you isn't destroyed by carelessness. The same is true with your soul. If you let everyone walk through your life without direction, without limits, without responsibility, they will trample on the very things you are trying to grow. That is not rejection, that is neglect. But when you establish boundaries, you create an environment where love, peace, and respect can flourish. Even Jesus had boundaries. He didn't give his full self to every person he encountered. There were times when he withdrew from the crowd, times when he told the disciples, "Come away with me to a quiet place," times when he refused to perform miracles in places that didn't honor him. That was not rejection, it was discernment. If the Son of God had to preserve his energy and steward his mission with boundaries, then surely we do too. The enemy loves when you confuse boundaries with rejection because it keeps you drained. He whispers, if you say no, they'll leave you. If you protect your time, they'll call you selfish. If you set standards, they won't love you. And because we fear being misunderstood, we keep allowing ourselves to be consumed. But the truth is, the people who are truly assigned to your life won't be offended by your boundaries. They will be grateful for them. Because boundaries not only protect you, they protect the relationship. They create clarity. They eliminate confusion. They help love stay pure instead of turning into resentment. You cannot keep pouring into people with no limits and expect to still have strength for your own assignment. You cannot say yes to every invitation, every request, every demand, and then wonder why your spirit feels empty. Boundaries are the guardrails that keep you from crashing into burnout. They are the divine structure that allows your yes to mean something, because it is not watered down by 1,000 other yeses that drained your soul. Think about the Garden of Eden. God set boundaries even in paradise. He told Adam and Eve, you may eat from every tree except this one. That wasn't rejection, it was protection. It was the wisdom of a creator who knew that life requires order and order requires limits. Boundaries are not punishment. They are the framework that allows blessing to thrive. When you learn to see your boundaries as an act of love for yourself and for others, you stop feeling guilty for protecting your peace. And I need you to catch this. People who cannot respect your boundaries are not aligned with your purpose. If they get angry when you say no, if they manipulate when you take a step back, if they only value you when you bend, that's not love, that's control. And boundaries expose it. They shine a light on who is truly for you and who was only for what you could give them. So instead of feeling guilty about setting boundaries, I want you to start feeling empowered. Because every time you set one, you are reminding yourself and others that your soul is worth protecting, your calling is worth guarding, and your presence is worth honoring. Boundaries are not rejection, they are divine protection. Your time is an investment, not a giveaway. Time is the one resource you can never get back. You can make more money, you can build new opportunities, you can even recover from losses, but once time is gone, it's gone forever. That means every hour, every conversation, every moment you give is an investment of your life. And just like with money, the way you invest determines the return you see. Some of us have been giving our time away like loose change, scattering it everywhere, hoping something valuable comes out of it. But you've got to understand that when you treat your time casually, people will treat it casually too. If you knew your hours were currency, you would guard them differently. If you could see that every phone call, every hangout, every favor is an investment of your future, you would stop wasting time with people who bring no growth, no peace, no fruit. Time was never designed to be spent. It was designed to be sown. And when you sow into the wrong soil, you cannot complain about the lack of harvest. The conversations that drain you, the circles that go in endless drama, the people who only call when they need but never when they give, that's not investment, that's theft. Jesus understood this principle so clearly. Notice how intentional he was with his time. He didn't stay in places where his presence was unappreciated. He didn't spend his days convincing Pharisees who were committed to misunderstanding him. He spent his time healing, teaching, pouring into disciples who would carry the mission forward. Even in his miracles, he was selective. Sometimes he healed one man in a crowd instead of everyone. That wasn't cruelty, that was clarity. He knew his time was limited on earth, and every moment had to be invested in alignment with his purpose. And I wonder what would happen if you began treating your time the same way. What would change if you stopped giving hours to people who only subtract and started investing in people who multiply? What would happen if you shifted your energy from trying to convince those who don't care and began to sow into those who truly value you, who water you, who grow with you? The truth is, your life would start producing fruit in areas where right now you only see frustration. We've got to confront the fear that makes us give our time away recklessly. Many of us say yes because we're afraid of being alone. We keep showing up for people who don't show up for us because we're afraid of rejection. We keep entertaining conversations that lead nowhere because we're afraid of missing out. But your time is too precious to be wasted on fear. When you start valuing your time, you start valuing yourself. And when you value yourself, you stop being afraid to say no to things that don't align with your destiny. Think of it this way: you are a garden. Every hour you spend is a seed planted in your soil. If you plant seeds of drama, gossip, and distraction, don't expect a harvest of peace and purpose. But if you plant seeds of study, prayer, rest, vision, and connection with people who inspire you, the fruit of your life will testify of your investments. The garden of your future is being shaped by the way you manage your time right now. There are people who may get offended when you start managing your time differently. They'll call you distant, they'll call you selfish, they'll say you've changed, but the truth is you haven't changed, you've matured. You've realized that your time is not something to be wasted, it's something to be invested. And anyone who truly loves you will celebrate that shift, because they will understand that protecting your time means protecting your destiny. So I need you to hear this clearly. Stop giving your time to everything and everyone. Stop allowing your hours to be stolen by people who have no intention of honoring what you carry. Start investing wisely. Because when you begin to see your time as an investment, you stop living on accident and you start living on purpose. Not everyone deserves access to your vulnerability. Vulnerability is holy ground. It is the place where your strength and your weakness collide, where your courage and your fears intertwine, where your scars tell the story of your survival. And because it is so sacred, it cannot be handed to everyone freely. Too often we open up our deepest places to people who have not proven they can be trusted with them, and then we wonder why we feel exposed, betrayed, or broken. The truth is, when you share your vulnerability with the wrong people, you give them weapons they were never meant to hold. There's a difference between transparency and vulnerability. Transparency is me letting you see what I've been through. Vulnerability is me letting you touch the places that are still healing. And not everybody has the capacity to hold that gently. Some people will turn your vulnerability into gossip. Some will use it to manipulate your emotions. Some will even weaponize it against you when you no longer serve their agenda. This is why you cannot confuse availability with trust. Just because someone is around you doesn't mean they've earned access to the deepest parts of you. Even Jesus modeled this. He spoke in parables to the crowds. He taught openly in synagogues. But when it came to his most vulnerable moments, like in Gethsemane, when he cried out in anguish, he only allowed Peter, James, and John to be close enough to see him that way. He loved the multitude, but his vulnerability was reserved for the few who were called to walk more intimately with him. That's not favoritism, that's wisdom, that's discernment. That's what it means to guard your heart. We've been taught to wear our hearts on our sleeves as if it's a sign of authenticity, but true authenticity is not about letting everyone see your wounds. It's about being honest with yourself and discerning who can be trusted with your truth. Because vulnerability without wisdom is a setup for heartbreak. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't owe everyone access. You don't owe everyone the privilege of seeing your soul unguarded. Part of the reason some of us are exhausted is because we have been bleeding in front of people who only clap for our pain. You've told your story in spaces that were not safe, and instead of healing, you left those moments feeling more wounded. That's not because you were weak, it's because you gave a holy thing to someone who did not see it as sacred. And now it's time to learn that your vulnerability is not for mass consumption. It's for covenant relationships, for safe spaces, for divine connections that God Himself confirms. This doesn't mean you have to be closed off or hard-hearted. It means you have to be intentional. It means you begin to ask God, who can I trust with this? Who has the character to handle my truth? Who has the maturity to pray for me instead of judge me? Because when you give your vulnerability to the right people, it becomes a place of healing. When you open up to those who are truly for you, your wounds can breathe, your heart can recover, and your soul can find rest. But when you give it to the wrong people, you end up building walls you were never meant to carry. I need you to know that protecting your vulnerability is not pride, it's stewardship. Your story is powerful, your wounds are evidence of survival, your tears are liquid prayers, and your heart is a reflection of God's image that is too precious to hand over recklessly. Let people earn the right to hear your truth. Let people prove that they are safe enough to sit in the presence of your vulnerability. Because when you stop giving that access away too easily, you begin to experience the freedom of knowing that your deepest places are protected, honored, and preserved for those who can actually handle them. God will elevate you when you start treating yourself like He created you with value. Too often we're waiting on God to open doors, to send opportunities, to place us in rooms, while at the same time we're living like we don't believe we deserve any of it. We pray for favor, but walk with insecurity. We ask for promotion, but carry ourselves like we belong at the bottom. We say we're chosen, but then treat ourselves like we're common. But family, can I tell you something? God will only bless you to the level that you are willing to respect yourself. Elevation begins the moment you recognize your worth. You cannot expect the world to treat you like you're valuable if you keep showing up like you don't believe it yourself. When you carry yourself like you're an afterthought, people will treat you like one. But when you walk in the authority of someone who knows she is fearfully and wonderfully made, people can't help but respond differently. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's you finally agreeing with what God has already said about you. And when your actions come into alignment with His declaration, doors start opening, favor starts flowing, and opportunities start finding you. Look at Esther. She was a Jewish girl with no high status, but when she was brought into the palace, she didn't shrink back and act like she wasn't worthy to be there. She carried herself with grace, with wisdom, with dignity. She treated herself like someone who had been positioned by God. And because of that posture, she was elevated to queen. Her elevation didn't come because she begged for it. It came because she understood her worth in the space God placed her. And this is what I need you to understand. God has already marked you for elevation, but He's waiting on you to treat yourself like the masterpiece He created. That means you stop entertaining relationships that diminish you. That means you stop showing up in spaces that don't honor you. That means you stop discounting your gift, downplaying your voice, silencing your power just to make other people comfortable. When you respect yourself, you're telling God, I'm ready for what you've prepared for me. Some of us are praying for platforms but living with mindsets that sabotage them. We're asking God to enlarge our territory but still thinking like slaves when He's called us to be heirs. We're praying for relationships that will honor us while we keep tolerating disrespect because we're afraid of being alone. But elevation requires agreement. You cannot pray for royalty and live with a bargain bin mentality. You cannot ask for more while treating yourself like less. God elevates the woman who believes she is who He says she is. And yes, this means you may lose people. Some won't like the way you start carrying yourself. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you too much. They'll accuse you of being proud, but they're not really reacting to arrogance. They're reacting to your alignment. They're used to you being accessible, silent, or diminished. And when you rise into your true identity, it confronts their comfort. But don't shrink back to make them feel better, because when you shrink, you delay your own elevation. God's promise is clear. He exalts the humble, but humility is not the same as low self-worth. Humility